A lot has happened in Nigeria between yesterday on ATN Blowout and today. Good morning to you. This is Atlantic Television Network and the program is Atlantic Blowout. And it's a syndicated live program of the network that gets to feature chit-chats and conversations on special interest topics. We talk about news, events and stories, but through correspondence reports, expert opinion and stakeholders analysis. Today we will look at a story coming from Lagos State where we have reports that NAFDAQ seizes petrol tankers that were transporting vegetable oil. And one will ask questions like why? We'll take a story concerning the labor now, that's the labor union, where we have reports that NUT asks teachers to prepare for nationwide strike. On education, ASU warns of disruption to academic calendar, and then the federal government has said they are working on it. On PMS, subsidy gulps 15 trillion naira as scarcity worsen. On presidential jets, Nigerians deserve to know its cost. A statement by Peter Obi. On electricity, Togo, Benin, all Nigeria $14 million. A statement by the federal government. We'll let you know who our guests are and then we'll delve straight to the details of the story after the break. Please stay right here with us. I am Enidoye Jackson. It's a pleasure knowing you're still with us. Thank you for standing by. It's still Atlantic Blowout, and I told you after the break we'll let you know who our guests in the studio are. I have with me on my right Mufasa Amosan. He's a public affairs analyst, a man for the people, with the people, by the people. Good morning, Mufasa.
That's a full title. Good morning, and fine, thank you. And you?
Very good. Welcome. And I also have with me on my left Ambassador Ekie, C. Ekie. He is also a public affairs analyst and many other things that he doesn't like to mention. He just likes to go by the title public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, Ambassador.
Am I also the man?
I don't know if I can say that. Maybe you tell us if you're a man for the people.
I doubt.
The people's man.
Okay, the people's spokesman. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, let's go to Lagos State now. We have reports that officials of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control have seized 3 petrol tanker trucks in Apapa for allegedly transporting crude edible vegetable oil. This was disclosed in a statement posted on X.com on Wednesday, and according to the statement, the oil had reportedly been loaded into the tankers from an edible oil depot. The agency's officials escorted the tankers to a processing facility in Shango, Ota, to avoid chemical contamination and other potential health risks due to the previous use of the transporting petrol. Now, the crude edible vegetable oil was then handed over to the Southwest Zonal Office of NAFDAC for further regulatory action. The statement reads that NAFDAC officials have seized 3 petrol tanker trucks in Apapa for allegedly transporting crude vegetable oil. The oil had reportedly been transloaded into the tankers from an edible depot. Okay, and now concerned about the potential health risks due to chemical contamination from the tankers of previous use with petrol. All right, Ambassador, I'd like to get you on this story first.
Well, I'd like to commend the NAFDAC for being apt to do what is needful and helpful to the health risk of Nigerians.
Yeah.
I think it's laudable, and also want to condemn in totality how come a registered food company will go into such kind of nefarious and wicked acts in the name of, is it cutting costs, or is it in the name of trying to expedite the process of a delivery, or is it in the name of trying to kill Nigerians? I do not really understand the rationale behind using a tanker that has been used or is used for petroleum purposes. Now you want to use it for an edible commodity. I think it's not right. You see, most times when we say that our problem, well, so at least the NAFDAC has also proven us that there are things that government institutions can do right to ensure that the life and the safety of Nigerians are guaranteed. So we'd like to say thank you, NAFDAC, and also want to say if there are other companies who are involved in activities that is inimical to our health, life, and our environment, I want to say we should desist, because it's not going to help us, it will not lead us to anywhere. What will it profit you when you destroy the health of your fellow Nigerians because you want to make money? It doesn't make money.
Seeing a story like this already shows us that this has probably been happening, and it also tells us that there might be other cases that were not, noticed by NAFDAC or any of these agencies that are supposed to look out for these things. Even in our communities, we hear of these things. The other day we saw in the news where
this could be just one out of several of such products that the syndicates or corporates, have tried to circulate in the system, and you could imagine the attendant health hazard that this could cause to the people. Imagine a tanker that was formerly used to transport petrol, and now somebody is now using it to transport edibles, consumables.
You don't even know how long that company has been doing that.
You could see how old and dirty the tanker looks. So as we are commending NAFDAC, we're equally encouraging them, urging them to step up further and ensure that some of these things don't even leave some of these, companies that produce the normal, media hype and all of that. We don't really see what punitive measures in terms of consequences that was meted out on this kind of people, because this is more or less, an attempt it could be termed as mass murder. This is poison, for people or a group of persons or an organization to, want to bring into the market poisonous substance for Nigerians to consume. It is very, very, it is weighty. And whatever punishment that should be meted on this kind of people should equally be weighty. Because the moment you allow these things to circulate, like I've said before, it's possible that this is just one out of several of such containers that, we are getting to find out. So, please, should not take this matter lying low. The collaborators should be fished out. The partners should be fished out. If they have international partners equally, should be fished out. And there has to be consequences for actions like this.
All right, thank you so much, Mufasa. We've had so many cases, similar cases in our society. We've heard cases of people going to the market, getting certain products, cooking, and that's just the end of it too. So we cannot even tell which of those items was actually poisonous for their consumption. But let's look at the next story now. We have reports that Nigeria Union of Teachers, NUT, has directed teachers nationwide to down tools and begin an indefinite strike should the police arrest the Nigeria Labour Congress President Joe Ajaero. Now, you'd recall that the Intelligence Response Team, arm of the Nigerian Police Force, NPF, had on Monday, August 19, invited Ajaero for questioning over criminal conspiracy, terrorism, financing, treasonable felony, subversion and cybercrime. The Deputy Commissioner of Police, in a letter of invitation, said Ajaero should appear at the IRT office on August 20, warning that he would be arrested if he failed to honor the invitation. But however, NUT, in a circular to state wings nationwide by its President and Acting Secretary General Audu Amba and Abdullahi Mohammed, respectively, asked teachers to prepare for industrial action. The Congress considers the act of harassment and intimidation as an attempt by the police to stifle the voice of the working people as represented by the leadership of the Congress. Consequently, the NEC and the NLC met and resolved to, amongst other things, direct all affiliates and state councils to immediately commence the process of mobilizing their members across the nation, as the Congress would not hesitate to take all necessary actions to protect the integrity and the independence of the labor movement. And in the light of the above, the NUT has directed the state wings of the union to mobilize all their teachers and be on standby should the president of the NLC be arrested by the police. Lots of allegations here and there by the NLC to the police, and then to the from the police to the NLC. Some people channel it to linking it to the protest, some other people linking it to some other activities that have happened before now. But I'd like to get your thoughts on this one, Mufasa.
I quite understand the position of the NLC. I know in labor there's what they call solidarity, and if threatening strike is a way to call the attention of government regarding what I would call suppressive kind of arrangement, because I believe during the protest, or within or after the protest, we had in the news that the Secretariat of the NLC, National Secretary of the NLC, was raided by policemen. And the police came out to tell us that they weren't targeting the NLC, their offices, that they were after a certain individual who resides within the premises. Then, in no distant time, we saw that the NLC chairman has been invited for terrorism charges and all the charge that you read out to us today. But let us look at the timing and the modus operandi of these governments. Now, assuming without conceding, because I know that nobody is above investigation as far as the law of the land is concerned. Globally, you can investigate anybody. But how come it's happening now? What could have preempted, what could have necessitated the sudden invitation and wanting to probe the NLC chairman in such a time when Nigerians, or a vast majority of Nigerians, are seeing this government as a suppressive government, as a government that is trying to stifle, is trying to gag the people, trying to suppress. Sheikh Tuku Mamu is still with the DSS, good and fine, but what is happening there? Has he said anything? They've not told us. So how come Joe Ajaero all of a sudden has been invited for terrorism, financing, cyber crime and all of that? See, my sister, if they have evidences that points to him and they think now is the time to present it, perhaps maybe after this investigation and trial and all of that, we are going to say a complete stop to terrorism in this country. Good and fine. But like I've said before, this government has continuously proven to Nigerians, this same government led by President Muhammadu Buhari, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that led a protest in 2012. This is a leader who in 1993, 1994, during the Nadeco era, was a full-time activist. What has changed? Does it mean that the moment you moved from the passenger seat to the driver's seat, your view of the road now begin to change? So for me, this pattern of trying to come for anybody that is not in tune with the government, it's undemocratic, it is despotic, and it is unacceptable if you want to consider what democracy entails. So for me, conclusively, I want to say that if they don't want this country to be thrown into chaos, because the NUT, they are threatening strike, ASU is threatening strike, some other affiliate labor centers are threatening strike, and you could imagine what that can do to an economy that is already, they
already vowed to shut down the economy.
Exactly.
If Ajaero
is arrested unduly, because they said if he does not present himself on or before, I think it's today, 21st or so, and the man
it was Tuesday.
And the man has said that it will not be charged until on the 29th of this month, because he has engagement. So if they go ahead to arrest him, then I think the government will make it easy for people to do.
He actually said that through his lawyers. So
of course, due process.
So let's see how that goes.
That is how it should be.
But then should the time matter if they actually have evidence against him? Should the timing really be considered? Let's hear your thoughts on this story. Okay.
Well, I like to commend my brother who first of all said nobody is above the law. Nobody is also above police invitation. Invitation does not mean arrest. Invitation does not mean harassment. It does not mean detention. There is a credible security intelligence, as made public by the Nigerian police force, that there is a criminal activity going on from the labor house, and they are in search of a particular person whom they have said is a global threat. His activities are global, can't guarantee the safety and the security of Nigeria and Africa and the world at large. Now, apart from the issue of terrorism, alleged towards this man, they also talk about his activities in cybercrime, and also activities that has to do with the felony or the treason or thereabout. These are very weighty allegations.
Terrorism
that
financing.
even the Labour Congress president ought to be interested to see that this issue that police has alleged is properly investigated, because it has to do with our national security. So I don't think that NLC so quickly, NUT, when children are preparing to resume, teachers are preparing to resume from the long holiday, all they could pass across is to say, get your shoe dusted, get ready, your lesson notes should not be prepared. What you should be preparing is to go for strike. I don't really understand that kind of hurried statement. I want to feel that most of
because they see a sabotage.
Let me come. You see, police investigation. If, for instance, now the NLC president was invited, right, and then detained unlawfully, then at that point, NLC and every affiliate member can say, no, this is injustice. Our leader cannot just be detained unlawfully. Why will our leader be harassed?
That's the same thing you're saying. That's the same thing.
It has not gotten to that.
They're not going on protest yet.
And
they're
saying
saying until that happens.
Good. Now, if on the verge of reporting himself to the police, and the police have said there are corresponding documents that are relating to him, possibly because the man is a tenant at the NLC secretariat. So I want to believe that if there is nothing fearful or indicting, the NLC president should present himself to the police.
Talking about him as a tenant in the NLC secretariat, are you making reference
to the person the police is suspecting to be a criminal in that place?
And has any name been mentioned?
Now, for me, I want to believe that NLC, NUT is not also abnormal. They know why they are saying that members should prepare for strike. Good thing the NLC president has consulted his attorney, his lawyer, and his lawyer have equally written. I do not know the grounds of saying that he will not be available on that 20th, maybe possibly on head grounds.
He said he has activities that were already scheduled for that
when
day.
he says activity, you are speaking as if you are above the law. This is national security. We must condemn what is wrong. If it has to do with the only place where the law exempts you is on health grounds. So if the NLC president is telling us that he has a health issues that he needs to attend to, the law gives him that waiver. But for you to say that you have activities,
he did it through his lawyer. So if it wasn't legal, his lawyer would have advised him otherwise.
Whatsoever the lawyer is saying, lawyers are not perfect. Every lawyer will tell you, the lawyer will advise you, sometimes will write what you want him to write because he's representing you. Most lawyers will not advise their client very well. Most will do. So I'm always saying that for the sake of our national security, which is what the police alleged, it has nothing to do with the protest. If they said because of the protest that you were a sponsor of that bad governance protest, would have said they are trying to witch hunt him. But the allegations surrounding him, these are highly criminal activities. And they are not even saying that he is a culprit that is involved. They are only saying that somebody that is alleged, there are evidences that are linking to him in transactions.
And people are asking, where did all of this come from? All of a sudden.
You see,
this is happening.
You see, if tomorrow, but when they said the Mr. President did not attend a particular school in US during the campaign time, people said they were trying to witch hunt him because he was trying to vie for the position of the president. So the police has a right to assess any place where there is suspicion of criminal activities without even a court order. The law gives them that privilege and that right. So I want to feel that the Labour House was being invaded like this. The police confirmed that it's about 10th floor building. So the labor office is housed either in floor 3, the 3rd floor thereabout. So what the people are, that the labor house is, the office is on the 10th floor rather, and then the 3rd floor where they went was where this tenant was occupying. So I want to say that the labor president, we are with you, we are not against you, but for the sake of our national security, the police have alleged some activities of terrorism, some activities that are not healthy to our national life. I want to encourage you to submit yourself with your lawyer.
He already is going to do that.
Yes, so I want to say that he should submit himself, and then the police also that we know, we want to encourage that they should conduct this activity in a more professional way, and at the end of the day we want to see the truth from the Nigerian police, the truth from the NLC president, because it is an act or a statement that has to do with our national security life. So nobody is sacred when it has to do with our security as a country.
You know, Professor asked a question earlier when you talked about the raid and the fact that if any name was actually mentioned by the police talking about the actual place that they were headed towards, that concerning that particular situation. And if no name was mentioned, do you think the NLC are out of place to actually feel like the police were actually coming after George?
You see, in fact, you are the one that is supposed to inform us if there is a name, because you are into the information industry. But
that's not the question. That's not the question I asked you. That's not the question I asked.
The question you are saying, yes. Who is this individual?
No, I'm not asking. How can I ask you who the individual is? No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, listen to the question. Are the NLC out of place to actually feel like the police were coming for Joe Ajaero when they did not hear any name being mentioned by the police?
Even if they are coming for him, there's nothing wrong. If the police says, allege that there is an activity of conspiracy, there's an activity of criminality in a particular individual, there is nothing wrong for the police to invite you. The only thing that is wrong is if you are unlawfully detained, if the activities of the police is unprofessional. After all, he's entitled to his lawyer, which he has already secured one. So I want to say that for anybody to say or feel that he should not subject himself for police invitation, no. Because this is a statement or an allegation that has to do with our national security.
Sorry, Ambassador, I have not really heard anybody say that Joe Ajaero should not submit himself for investigation or questioning to the police. The story is talking about the NUT, and not just the NUT now, the NLC who have also said that they're going to shut down the economy if Joe Ajaero is arrested. But let me find out if Mufasa would like to answer that.
You know, personally, I understand what national security is, and I'm also aware that nobody has been mentioned. The so-called occupants of that building has not been made public by the security operatives. I've been in this country since they started this whole drama, and no name has been mentioned yet. And for me, that is, completely worrisome. And let me equally use the opportunity to say that for the fact that we operate a democracy, some of these, activities of the police and agents of government suggest what could be seen in a military era. I mean, we are not in a police state. You understand what I'm saying? If the man has been invited, you should give the man adequate time to come and answer to your invitation. And the man has said that on that day, I won't be chanced. And he has spoken through his lawyer. What raises all does is when you begin to threaten arrest. That suggests all the trappings of a despotic kind of government. This is a democracy, for crying out loud. You understand what I'm saying? Now, the man finances involved in, let Nigerians know. What? I'm coming, excuse me. I'll add you the time. Let Nigerians know. We are not in a military era. Whatever you think you know, present it before the public, and let us not so forget, that man has his own rights. As guaranteed by the constitution of this country. That's why I said, we are not in a police state. Because the first thing the military do when they come into government is to suspend the constitution, which means you don't even have any rights. The man has not said he's not honoring your invitation. He has told you that on that day, already he has a schedule.
All right.
He's a public figure. I'm coming. 1 minute. He's a public figure. And he has said to his lawyer that on the 29th, I'm not running away from this country. On the 29th, I will appear before you and let us see those transactions that suggest that I'm a terrorist or I'm financing terrorism in this country. But when you begin to say, if he doesn't appear before time, you are going to arrest him. And he's a labor leader. Who does that for crying out? He's a labor, he's not just an ordinary Nigerian, he's a labor leader. You know what labor is? They don't try that in other countries. Because you're going to wake up the sleeping dogs. Because it's already, the politics overheated. People are agitating. And you want to arrest a labor leader for trumped-up charges. And you are expecting the affiliate bodies like the NUT, NS, and not to come out to. They must do that. It is in solidarity. Above all, conclusive, above all, I think the Nigerian government should understand that the people are beginning to see this government as a suppressive government. And if that continues, do you know what perception could do to a system? If it continues, my sister, our democracy is going to be on a tipping slope. And that isn't what we want going forward as a.
All right, Ambassador, before we move on.
Well, I would like to say that, one, the Labour president will not have immunity, like a governor or a president. Number two, I've equally seen where high-profile Nigerians are invited by anti-graft agencies with a date and threat of arrest. So the NLC president is not the first and will not be the last. So I would like to say that what we can do with the NLC president, one, I'm glad that he has agreed to subject himself to the police invitation. He should do that for the sake of our national security. And number two, every one of us that are in solidarity with him, we can accompany him on the day of that invitation. So I don't think anything is wrong. It's not that the government is trying to suppress any person. If there is a credible information that will lead to our national security, I don't think it will be should be taken for a joke. So I think the Nigerian police force have never said that he has been convicted. They only said there are information surrounding him and a particular tenant of the NLC building. So I think, subject yourself, let us see how it goes. So, but the only place where Nigerians or comrades will be angry is when it looks as if it's just a mere harassment or indictment, or they just try to. Is going on. You do not, subvert investigation by sentiment or by your personal wishes or by your position. No, it has to do with the security of Nigeria, and we believe that even if it's Mr. President that is alleged, he has to also clear up himself. So the NLC president has no immunity, and we believe that even if he has immunity, as far as it has to do with our national security, he has to do the needful. And we have also said that the police must conduct this particular activity in a very professional way, and also understanding that.
And removal of universities from the Treasury single account and new IPPIS vis-a-vis to herald the autonomy of their universities. He explained that Academic Staff Union of the Universities held its National Executive Council meeting at the University of Ibadan between Saturday 17 and August 18, 2024, where the union undertook a comprehensive review of the outcomes from its engagement with the federal and state government on various outstanding issues that have encumbered the development of Nigerian universities and hindered university workers. They also regretted that the university's issues over which ASU has been engaging federal government and state government in the last decade or so are yet to be meaningfully addressed. Ambassador.
Yes, I'd like to thank this particular chapter of ASU for taking time to review their activities and their engagement with the federal government, and then to see how the university system becomes more robust and progressive is a good one. Again, I also like to commend them talking about the issue of autonomy of the university, which we also advocate. And this autonomy, like we have suggested, is that of course, it will not be absolute autonomy. It will be autonomy where the Ministry of Education will still supervise and the relevant authorities. But it's also going to be an autonomy where accountability must be the hallmark. It has to also be autonomy where the university should generate their revenues, pay their workers. For me, like I always say, it will help to reduce the issue of strike in terms of welfare. So generate any amount of money that you desire that federal government should pay, and then agree with the NUC, the Nigerian University Commission, also agree with the Ministry of Education, so that you as Vice Chancellor or Provost of a particular polytechnic or thereabout, you will run the university, provide those wonderful things that you have been advocating for, that is making our universities not to be wetting what they have and what government can support them to ensure that we have a good educational system. So the autonomy will be wonderful, and we trust that there will be no abuse of that autonomy.
So they should fix their own school fees?
Of course. And they challenge that, you know, most times these things are in between. When we say raise your revenue, most times, because we have a taxation mentality, the revenue will only be accrued from students and not thinking about how they can generate other sources of revenue by maybe industrializing the university system, the sectors that can go into industrialization, coming up with avenues to generate revenues from what they can produce.
Well, can't all of that be done now even without the absolute autonomy you're talking about?
You see, it is assumed that federal government cannot provide all of this. So,
but the federal government have advised ASU to actually do exactly what you're saying, industrialize and look for alternative ways to make money.
So they can achieve this with the autonomy.
That's what I'm saying. Without that, with the way it is now, with the present system, are you saying the universities cannot also achieve that?
They can.
Okay.
Once they look inward, like everybody's asking them to look inward, they can.
So why do they have to wait till when the autonomy you're talking about comes? If they can actually do the same things now?
Most times, the government institution looks like a community goat. A community goat, nobody knows whether the goat have eaten or not. So they only assume that maybe somebody may have given the goat food. So it's assumed that whether the goat is crying or starving, nobody will know.
Okay.
So if it is a personal goat, just like the private universities, all these things will not be waited for. So I want to think that they can, but maybe they are asking for the willpower, which is the autonomy. So that's why we are encouraging that take the autonomy, the university, but of course, like I said, and I know it will not be absolute autonomy.
All right, Mufasa.
Well, thank you very much. For me, most of the issues here are not new. These were issues that, you know, have been on the table, you know, since about more than a decade ago, you know, and it's coming to... The government does not really have so much interest in public institutions. Perhaps, like some of the issues raised by ASU, that proliferation of universities, both public and private, and some of the private universities are owned by these same government officials. So what do you expect? They don't mind if they run down the, you know, the public institutions just for people to lose complete confidence in our, you know, in our public institutions. So I wouldn't, you know, agree more. You know, I wouldn't want to align so much, you know, with autonomy, because if you do that, you know, most of the children of the poorest of the poor
will not be able
to go to school.
True.
Already, the school fees is something else. Tuition fees is something else. Most people can afford it. You know, he talked about, you know, subsidizing education, which for me is good and fine, because if you go to other advanced countries in Europe and America, they do so. They give loans and all of that. I'm not talking about this, what they call a student loan.
Why are you not talking about that? That's also a student
loan. No, that
loan.
is not that. Before you
for
come
fees.
up, excuse me, before you come up with a program that you have sincerity of purpose and intention, you must have put all the necessary, you know, structure in place. What we do in this country is political gimmicks.
What structures do you think
now,
does not?
it should. People are still having that. For how long will Nigeria become a matured man? We are above 50 as a nation. We travel out of this country every now and then. Our political class, they travel out of this country every now. They see how things are done there. We have the resources. We have the brains. How come we are not replicating what we see in Europe and America and Nigeria? There are countries in Africa today that are doing very, very well, both educationally and otherwise.
So what do you think is the
what I think, what my problem is this: there is no sincerity of purpose and intention, and I stand here to speak with valid authority, and I'm responsible for what I say.
In what aspect?
Good. Now you're talking about student loan. Now we don't have a well cut out plan as to how these loans can be repaid, because if you are giving a loan to somebody, it's expected that the person pay you back as soon as the person leaves school. The people you have a army of unemployed youth leaving schools today. How would that person be able to pay you when the person doesn't have a job? The state does not have arrangement to provide you, because in other countries, other claims that I just mentioned, they know that as soon as you leave school, they provide job for you. As you are working, they are deducting certain percentage from your salary. But in their whole country, you are threatening that if you cannot pay, you go to jail and all of that. Who does that? These are political arrangements. There's no sincerity of purpose and intention. But I don't want to talk about that. Let's focus on ASU. Now, ASU, in I think it was in 2020 or 21 or so, that we had the last longest strike from February to October. Yes. And some of these issues raised by ASU, they're equally almost the same thing that made them to go on strike.
It's been the same thing.
Yes. So how come that these things have not been addressed? Where does our priority lie as a nation? I leave that for our ruling class to answer.
You know, we keep having these meetings between ASU and the federal government, and agreements keep being reached, and then we hear that agreements have been reached, and then a deadline is given, we'll keep your part and we'll keep our part, and then you find out that the federal government did not keep theirs.
You see, and most times too, when some decisions are taken under duress, certainly you may not see truth in the manifestation of that decision.
So you think even the 2009 agreement was taken under duress?
You see, when you strike and the government feels that agreeing with you is to enable you stop the strike is the only option, because don't go on strike. Let us do this way. You say, no, we must go on strike, except what you are asking for is being achieved. I like to say that until, I will not say that proliferation of universities should not continue, until when we have seen that the public school, we cannot guarantee the duration of our children going to school, graduating at the normal time, with the requisite knowledge they ought to have, then we can say no longer new institution. Of course, it's a strategy to weaken the ASU, the public schools, because of course the children will not remain at home. My brother cited the issue of state institution, universities. Of course, there are some state governments that have a policy of no work, no pay. And of course, that's not that the government are giving the state universities all that they wanted, but simply because there is that law, there is that policy that of no work, no pay, that has checkmated most of our state universities not to go on strike. And I commend such kind of actions. That's why very many of us now, everybody wants their children to go to state universities, because they are sure that the strike opportunities are slim.
Well, nobody is happy about ASU going on strike, but we're looking at the federal government keeping their part of the agreement.
That's why I said that the federal government will have leaders who too are not sincere. Now, let me also say that let it not be that some ASU members who traveled abroad are yet to return back, and they are trying to hold brief. That is ASU, right? They are trying to hold brief for them to return back with the threat of strike. Because sometimes, like I said here, it looks as if most times that the ASU members love the strike because some of them are into private businesses. So most times, because of their personal businesses, the issue of this strike is being threatened to ensure that they have the freedom of doing their private business.
So for government that cares about the educational system in the country and about the students and about them not staying at home due to ASU strike and trying to avoid ASU from doing just what you said, probably, right? So why don't you just keep your part of the agreement? Why don't you just pay more attention to education? Why don't you, this is an agreement. You know what an agreement is?
You see, I do not subscribe for a government to have an agreement and do not keep, because every agreement of government represents the integrity of that country. So I like to say that each time agreement is made, whether with ASU or any group, if there's any need to review that agreement, it's ideal to bring those people back to the table. Yes, that agreement we had, we have gone back and checked that it may not be possible if we go this way. I think the ASU members are also Nigerians. So my plea and my request is this: for us to solve this issue once and for all. It may not be the final end of academic crisis in Nigeria. Let us give ASU the autonomy to run these schools. Let us give subsidy to these universities. Vice chancellors, provosts, devise a means of ensuring that we have good and quality education.
Right.
What are the areas that government can come in to assist? The people that support the quality education is not only government. Philanthropists do. We have some department that philanthropists provide, machines for them and all that. So let us, all join hands. Also should mention to us the areas some of us can get involved, so that it will not be government.
All right, Mufasa, I'll add to that in a few minutes.
Well, let me also say that I know that they've succeeded in killing the primary and secondary system of education. Nobody wants to send his kids to any of the government-owned primary and secondary school. And for me, I think they're trying to extend it to, the university, so that their own private university built with our own money, people can now begin to see that as an option, okay? But going forward, for me, I want to say that government should take education as a priority. By so doing, if you are entering into any form of agreement, you should be very, very circumspect in the terms and conditions. The moment you agree on something, like you said, I like the part you said that an agreement is your integrity is at stake. So the moment you agree on something, try as much as possible to fulfill that agreement so that you can have that integrity.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's talk about the fuel. According to per month, in 14 months, that's from June 20 latest. On the other hand, independent marketers say the landing cost of petrol and other logistics stand at about 1,200 naira per litre. The NNPCL retail sells petrol of 560 naira for petrol. Reveals that while the retail price of petrol stands between 650 and 750 across the country, the landing cost of petrol per litre is 1,200. As of Monday, this was disclosed, that's on August 19. According to a recent report, President Bola Tinubu has approved a request by the NNPCL to utilize the 2023 final dividend due the Federation to pay for petrol subsidy. The report shows that the President also approved the suspension of the payment of 2024 interim dividend to the Federation in order to augment the NNPC's cash flow, according to presidency sources. Now, in addition, the national
15 trillion naira. You know, so where now is sincerity? Where lies transparency? Where lies accountability? Where is the Nigerian state getting this extra money that is it to pay subsidy? Does it trust? Is that not a breach of contract? Is the president running this country as his private estate? The answer is a complete no. He shouldn't be doing so. But that is what we are saying today. Nigeria is nobody's private estate. We are supposed to be carried along. How this country is run, how our monies are spent, assuming that as at the time we are paying subsidy, we are buying petrol less than 400 naira. Now they came in and told us the subsidy is gone, and that was how the problem of this country started. We are now being informed reliably that they are still paying subsidy. We are paying more than what we used to pay.
More in a locality, which means we can buy petrol for 540, 550. It will not get up to 900 at 9 something that some of us are buying in most of these independent marketers. So the GMD of the NNPC is saying that the price that they are selling to Nigerians is the landing cost, 500 and something naira, which I saw yesterday.
It's over 1,000 naira.
And that they are selling for half of it.
Yes.
So that's the price I'm confirming now.
So who's paying for the other?
Now, you see, it also means that if the federal government is not even taking responsibility of that half, which we still call subsidy, it means that if NNPC is selling 500 and something naira now, it would have been sold for 1,000 something. So the only big challenge here is that should we continue with this huge amount of importation? How do we survive it? So I think it's actually a big question. If it was possible for the government to off their hands from petrol business, of course we will buy with more prices, because the independent marketers are already giving us for 8 something 900.
That's because they're not importing. If they were importing, it probably would have been.
No. You see, the issue is, if they import, the federal government, through the NNPC that is importing, is buying with the rate of 1,000 something. So is it that those independent marketers will now buy lesser than what NNPC is buying? The answer is no. So I want to feel that when an issue becomes a big burden, you begin to diversify, you begin to rethink. It's quite unfortunate that the process of our, I call them the people who, these local illegal refiners, right? I give it to them. Because what we heard is that what they are even refining is almost 90% better, relatively close to what we are importing outside. less resources.
But it doesn't change the fact that it's illegal.
It's when you say yes, it's because it's
You're talking about purity at 90%, right? What facts do we have?
No, let me.
But that's just an assumption.
Yeah, it's an assumption. Now, what I'm trying to suggest here is, can our state governments, the 36 states, including FCT now, think inward? Can we begin to reduce the value for petroleum products? Because let us just be selling crude now, my brother, sir. And then let us now devise a means of generating renewable energy cars. As a state, we can say Operation Use Solar, Operations Electric Cars, Operation Solar Cars. Let us bring in foreign companies that can build solar cars for us, convert some of our cars to electric cars.
Foreign companies, what happened to
if we do not have indigenous companies that can do that?
We already have the CNG bus that the president has said, and that was an indigenous company.
We don't have enough manpower. If it is an intervention arrangement, if it's an urgent arrangement, the manpower we have in providing that is not enough. I equally know that we have enough solar companies in Nigeria. If they have jobs, they can do it well. I've traveled to some countries in this world, and like I always say, I never heard the sound of a generator.
Okay,
so it means that we can do it. We can begin to go into solar.
We already getting into that.
Let government provide for us. The way we are paying electric bill, right? We cannot be paying for solar bill.
Thank you.
Now, for me, the solution to this problem is for us to get our refinery fixed. I think if we fix our refineries, we'll not be talking about importing petroleum products. And let me also say that NNPC is the sole importer of petroleum products. Other private individuals, independent marketers, they could no longer import forex because of the high rate of forex. So NNPC, they have become sole importer of petrol. They get the one that they can get. According to them, they are paying out the price, and Nigeria are asking, where are you getting that amount from? That is the question Nigerians are asking. You said subsidy is gone, you are still paying subsidy. Nigerians want to know why you are keeping that thing away from us, because we're operating in a democracy, and in a democracy, you must tell us what you do with our money. And lastly, let me also say that some of these artisanal refineries, we cannot ascertain the quality of what they produce.
True.
That is why we are agitating for the government to allow for modular refineries. They said we should build modular refineries, but they refuse to give us crude. Look at Dangote today. That is what is suffering. You are telling people to build modular refineries, you are telling them to invest, and at the same time, you are sabotaging their effort. So the Nigerian government should come out clearly.
Allegedly sabotaging
no, it is not allegedly. When you ask somebody to build, and you're not giving that person access to raw material, that is sabotage. But let me equally say this. For the interest of Nigerians and those listening to us today, that we want this government to tell us the actual amount the government is paying for subsidy. We need to know. It's our entitlement. They must tell us what they are paying for subsidy. They should tell us why and how they are paying for subsidy.
The jet is now here, thanks to the French code that helped Nigerians to get the information. Now that the jet is here, Nigerian taxpayers whose money was used to purchase it need to be privy to how much it cost, how old the aircraft is, and how long it has been in operation. All right, Ambassador, I'd like to get your thoughts on this story.
Well, I think the former governor of Anambra State, His Excellency Peter Obi, is not wrong in trying to ask for these informations about these aircrafts. And again, I also want to believe that the federal government are not also insensitive and abnormal in going for an aircraft that does not befit the office of Mr. President. So I'd like to say that these are information that can easily be shared. He is a high-ranking profile Nigerian, and I'm sure he's not asking that question for himself.
And how transparent do you think this government has been with some of these policies and actions?
I don't think the federal government have not been transparent enough. but it's possible that there are areas that Nigerians need more information.
Okay, thank you.
And I equally want to suggest and say that we are in a time where we have leaders, when you talk about taxpayers' money, some government will want to ask how much are we really generating from taxation. For instance, like the federal government,